Hello, welcome to the Experience Podcast. I'm Neil Miller. Today with me is
Dennis Miller.
And I want to start off with a quote from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. So he was born on August 28th, 1749, and he was a German poet, a playwright, a novelist, a scientist, a statesman, a theater director, a critic, and an amateur artist. So it sounds like he did a little bit of everything. So the quote that he said was, "Magic is believing in yourself. If you can make that happen, you can make anything happen." And going from that quote, he says, magic is believing in yourself. So I would like to give the definition of self. So the definition of self, as a definition from Oxford Language, is self is, as a noun, a person's essential being that distinguishes them from others, especially considered as the object of introspection and reflexive action. So today we're going to be talking a lot about self-expression and self-love. So based on that definition of self, could you give the definition of expression? And then I'd like to kind of bring those two together and see what we can kind of get from that word of self-expression.
Yeah, okay. So I actually looked this up earlier from etymonline.com. It's actually an etymology dictionary that you can find. And the word expression in Latin, it meant the action of pressing out or the action of manifesting a feeling.
Okay. So you would be bringing up a feeling when you're expressing, is kind of what I get from that. And then with the definition of self, it explains a person's being that distinguishes them from others. So could you read that definition again?
Yes, it's the action of manifesting a feeling.
So it would be a feeling that you bring up within yourself that basically distinguishes you from others.
Wow.
Is kind of what I get when I'm breaking it down here. What do you kind of see from self-expression? What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's very fascinating that the word self is with that, because really the spirit is not a part of the self, because the self is the vehicle that is. So when you said that, it reminded me of like a third party, like seeing that from a third party perspective.
Can you elaborate?
So the action of manifesting a feeling, being the observer of feeling that emotion and letting it, just observing it.
Okay, but with the word expression, it's saying you would be expressing a feeling within yourself. So you would not be observing it, you would be expressing the feeling that you feel.
Okay.
So then you would be, so now you're expressing it and so you're not observing at this point. You're expressing because it's self-expression, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Yes. So, what are different ways that of self-expression?
Different ways of self-expression would be maybe imagine back to when you were 9 years old, and what did you like to do when you were 9 years old? What was something that made you happy?
Go back in the woods.
So that is a way of expressing yourself, because the younger we are, the less boundaries we have set up, and the things that we like to do as a 9-year-old, more likely than not, you'll still like doing them present day. The only difference is you're so caught up in life, doing things, that you're basically potentially not expressing what you used to just express as play, but it brought you a sense of happiness. And I feel like it's important to be playful and to find that sense of joy in just everyday life by and through expressing yourself um, in that way. So you're saying maybe going through to the woods is a way of expressing yourself. What about longboarding, baseball, football? You can express yourself through the words that you speak. You can express yourself by the smile that you give to someone else. Expressing yourself is expressing yourself in the moment. It goes back to kind of the feeling of expression. You're manifesting the feeling that you're feeling in the moment. So how you express yourself right now is not how you're gonna express yourself a minute from now, because you're not the same person a minute from now that you are right now. So self-expression is you're always expressing yourself. Always is a powerful word. I should not have said that probably. So you're not always expressing yourself. You so let's so we have expression, and then so what's the opposite of expression? That is suppression. Suppression. Correct.
So,
and what we know is that suppression is depression. So the opposite of that is self-expression. So when you suppress your feelings, you'll get depressed. When you suppress your smile, when you wear a face mask and you don't show you're not expressing your emotions in the moment, you're suppressing them, which leads to depression. So what are your thoughts on as far as like self expression and the flip side of that, which is suppression?
yeah, I earlier before the podcast, I looked up the word suppress, right?
Sure.
And it actually comes from the root word comes from Latin. It's press down, stop, hold back, check, and stifle.
And that would be all things that you're doing to your emotions.
Yes. And I think right now we see a lot of suppression going on in the world. People are being locked down. They're not being. They're told not to. Their breath isn't good for them. That breathing isn't good for them, and they're not even able to express something as simple as a smile.
Sure.
And that is leading to this global. It feels like a lot of gloom and doom. So to change that, even if they tell us to go into a lockdown because of this pandemic, the way to get out of that is to start expressing ourselves again, to start doing what Neil was saying, football, basketball, whatever hobbies that we love, whatever, if we love being an artist, like making pictures of paint, drawing, whatever, that our abilities are, music, teaching, healing, all those things. Like if we start expressing those things, we'll turn the tide.
And it comes to the individual person.
Yes.
So it's so I can express myself, but by me expressing myself, it's not going to change Timmy's life, my neighbor, because Timmy needs to express himself. So I can express myself, but until Timmy expresses himself, that's when his life actually benefits from it. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Um,
So you're saying that it takes us as a collective all
well,
having
kind
this-
of what I'm saying is basically like I can express myself and it might change a few lives or it might change my life, but if you want to see change in your own life, then that's when you need to express yourself. And I think kind of what I was getting at is my expression of myself is not your expression of yourself, because your expression of yourself is your own expression. That's kind of where I was going with that.
Wow. Something that I just thought of when you were talking
Sure.
is when we don't express our gifts and our abilities and our talents, we're actually being very selfish. In a sense.
In a sense, yes.
Because we're just like me, take instead of giving. And sharing our gifts and our talents and our abilities with the world.
Sure. Absolutely. So continuing, so self-expression, and then we also have self-improvement. Kind of goes, I feel like kind of comes with self-expression. I feel like the more you express yourself, automatically your life will kind of improve in a sense through expressing yourself. So how do you feel about that?
I absolutely agree, because when we get into that, we get into a state of creation instead of a state of stagnation. So we start creating.
Yes.
And as we get into the flow of living our best life and creating and starting manifesting the things and the lifestyle and everything that we all want, that just continues to bring in more and more and more, because it creates self-respect, it creates self-love.
Sure.
And the cycle just keeps on going and going and going.
So we're talking about self-improvement. I want to bring up the core values of this podcast, and the core values of this podcast are facts, inspiration, empowerment, and transformation. Going back to self-improvement. So I have a question for you. How do you know what's good for you?
As far as, are you talking about information? Are we talking in general? Or are we
In
talking
general.
in general? What's good for me? If That's a really good question. I would love to.
So how do you determine if something is good for you or not? So this
By the
is,
way, it makes me feel.
sure. Okay, so you go by how you feel. Wonderful. So this is just kind of a brain experiment that we're
Okay.
doing here. So you go by the way it makes you feel, and I actually do the same thing. If the way I know that something's good for me is by the way that if I feel good about it, then it's good for me. So that's kind of how I go about it. And you said that. So why are you looking for self-improvement if you know it's good for you?
Because I see, you're asking me personally.
We're doing a brain experiment.
Okay.
Here.
So the reason that I do is because I feel that the better I become as a person, the better that, the more that I work on my shadow side, on my dark side, and I
Sure.
learn from it, and I learn the lessons.
Sure.
By me doing that, I feel that it comes out, or at least I hope it does, in my daily actions when I'm around other people. Because I want to be the light that shines and is the example.
Sure.
And I think that goes directly with self-expression.
Sure.
And being the best version of
So
ourselves.
I want to keep going with this brain
Okay.
experiment. So you know what's good for you based on how you feel. And so why are you looking for self-improvement if you know what's good for you based on how you feel? So continuing on that, I'll let you meditate on that a little bit. So here's kind of what I've come up with. So yeah, you can go by how you feel, but in all actuality, you have no idea what's good for you. What you may feel is good for you now may not be good for you in the future because you don't even know what your future holds. So now that you don't know what's good for you, now you can kind of step back and just observe the world a little bit. So now let's just observe, because we don't know what's good for us, because our future selves, we're not in the future, we're here now. We know what's good for us now, but we don't know what's good for us in the future. That was just a fun brain experiment. But now when we start observing, now we become restless. Now we want to improve something. So now we want to improve. So now we come to self-improvement again.
You know, something that I came across just recently by
Sure.
Sadhguru.
Sure.
He said that detachment is the key to suffering.
Key to the end of all suffering.
Okay. Say that again.
Go ahead.
Detachment is the key to end all suffering. So that goes directly with what you said, is just stepping back and being the observer. I feel like that's a very good thing in our daily lives.
When you're the observer, at that point that you're observing, you're a human being. When you are not observing and you're in your thoughts and you're going about your daily, you're doing something. So at that point, you're a human doing. And I feel like we're put here to be more human beings. And in this matrix world, we get awarded for being people that are human doings. More awards should be given for people that are human beings.
So for all you beings out there, that human beings, I appreciate you.
So here's a fun brain experiment. So, fun fact, cigarettes kill you. Here's another fun fact. Breathing oxygen will kill you. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying anything. That was two fun facts. So, continuing with that, express yourself in the moment. Yes, smoking's gonna kill you, but yes, if you don't smoke, you're still dying
Yeah.
by breathing oxygen.
Wow.
So, express yourself in the moment, I guess is what I'm getting at.
That's awesome. And I mean, I feel like that's what you've been talking about, and what we've been talking about is expressing us in the moment that is how we attract things to us, by being present in the moment.
You only have the moment. So when you're present somewhere else, or when you're in the past or the future, you're not in the moment. So you're missing out on a big chunk of your life if you're just always in the past. Because you're there and not here. That's how I see being in the moment. I see being in the moment not as much as manifesting, but as much as, so let's think of, we've got 24 hours in a day. If you're in the moment, 24 hours in the day, there's 60 minutes an hour, there's 24 hours. So, I'm gonna break this down. So, 24 hours in a day by 1 hour, and there's 60 minutes an hour. So 60 times 24 is 1,440 minutes in a day. And we'll do that times 60 because there's 60 seconds in a minute. So that comes out to 86,400 moments that you have in a day. So if you're present the entire day, you have 86,400 present moments in one single day. That's how many present moments that you have. And you can even break that down to another milliseconds of being present. So what I'm getting at, when you're in the past, so now you're in the past 3 hours out of the day, 4 hours out of the day, you're in your past emotions, you're reliving the stuff that's happened in your past. All right. So let's say 4 hours a day. So now we have 4 hours times 60 minutes an hour, and then times 60 seconds in a minute. So now there's 14,400 moments in 4 hours that you're not in today, that you're in your past. So what I'm getting at, it's so incredible when you're in the present moment, you literally have 86,400 seconds in a day that you can be in a present moment to express the feeling. You can express 86,400 feelings throughout one day.
When you were saying that, it made me think of an artist when he's painting. So when somebody's painting, like all those little moments, and then sometimes they can go back in moments because that one moment was a different color or whatever.
Before they get to the final masterpiece,
Yes.
which is the picture.
Yes.
So there's all these moments which create life. The book that is
the self-expression.
Sure.
So, there's one other thing that I would like to share. about self-expression, self-respect, and self-love. And this is the way out of this matrix. Like these three, if we really focus on these three, it's the way that we can create that better future. But right now they're trying to lock everybody down, suppress their
Suppression is depression.
yes. So
Suppression is depression. So that's very important.
yes.
Like suppression is depression.
So we have to get out of lockdown. We have to find out what our gifts and abilities are and start working on them.
We don't have to do anything if we want to do it.
Thank you.
So let's want to get out of lockdown, and let's want to start expressing ourselves.
Absolutely. So do you have anything else to add to that?
I think I've said all that I need to say.
This has been the Experience Podcast. Peace.